Your father then apologizes to you in an extraordinary and unexpected grand gesture. And what does that do, if anything, to your relationship going forward?
He was very supportive from then on. He was proud of the fact that I had become successful as an actor.
So now you go for 6.5 years on a soap opera. And then what happens in the story? What's next?
Well, while I was doing the soap opera, I was also on Broadway in plays.
Yeah.
And my partner at that time was Sidney Pollack, a director, a very, very good friend.
A very, very accomplished
director, very, very major. I miss him a great deal. He died some 2 or 3 years ago.
Yeah. Best friends?
Oh, best friend, best family, family friends. Just terrific.
And he had, Mr. Pollack had an extraordinary career.
Yes, he did. And his wife was one of Hitchcock's girls. She didn't quite have the success that some of the others did, but Hitchcock signed his wife, and Sidney got me started on directing Ben Casey. He was by that time living in California and directing television. He said, "I can get you a job directing television."
And by the way, you had met Sidney Pollack in New York?
Oh yeah, we were intimate friends for many years.
Right. Then he goes to California. He says, "I can get you a job directing a TV show," and you say,
"Why not? I'm on the plane."
There you go.
And I had a very,
charmed
I feel in a sense ashamed that I didn't struggle.
Mm-hmm.
I didn't have the struggle that so many of my friends have been through. Right. I didn't have that problem. Right. I was working right away. I went from job to job.
When, as best you can recall, does the first big motion picture come your way? And what would that be?
I was a very successful television director, and the producer, Raymond Strauss, who owned the rights to The Fox, which is the D.H. Lawrence short story, was looking for a director who he could hire for very little money. He came to me, and I read this material, which was very intimate, sexual, very, very candid sexual material, and very distinguished story by D.H. Lawrence. And I had Sandy Dennis and Keir Dullea and Anne Haywood, and it wins the award as the best foreign film because we shot it in Canada. Mm-hmm. So it won the award, and from there on in, I was just sliding downhill. It was perfect.
Which is somewhat of a theme of your life.
Steve McQueen, who was in my class at the Neighborhood Playhouse, and he had his partner had The Reivers by William Faulkner, and he came to me and he said, "Do you want to try directing this movie with me?" I said, "Let me read it." I read it, and I thought, Jesus, this is a chance to really make I'd been offered some movies prior to that, but they were all mediocre things I knew that would not help my career. But this was a very daring, sexually explicit.
In addition to the material being interesting and provocative and meaningful, you had the knowledge that Steve McQueen would be participating in it.
Right, which was both good and bad.
Tell me about the bad.
Well, he wanted to run things, and that doesn't work.
Not working with you.
One of the things that a director must do is accept the responsibility of being, in a sense, the father figure to the picture. Mm-hmm. And Steve and I had some difficulties in that respect, and so I remember there was a scene in a mud hole where Steve McQueen and Rupert Cross and a child take a 1905 yellow Winton Flyer, and they're going to New Orleans to have some fun together, and they get stuck in a mud hole, and it was difficult they had to get out and stand in the mud and push the car, and the car wheels were running and mud was going on everybody, and it was a difficult experience. And Steve said to me, "Rydell, yeah, get over here." This is in front of the whole crew and everything like that. And so he's running. I said, yes, Steve? He says, listen, there's only one boss on this movie. And I said to him, yes, and that's me. And he stood there. The whole crew was watching this. Because, you know, it was a key moment. If I had surrendered at that moment, the picture would have gone out the window. He looked at me and he thought, Jesus Christ, you got some balls to be able to say that to me.
The hell are you?
But
he surrendered.
He surrendered. Well, that's the essential element that a director must do it in a sweet way.
Great.
The trick is not to be like Otto Preminger, I remember watching him on a set. He would tell people angry and they were all terrified of him. That's not the way to work. The way to work is to appreciate the gifts of the people with whom you're working, nurture them, create an environment in which they can flourish. That's maybe the major skill of a director.
You have the great success, a commercial success, Steve McQueen. Then what happens next?
My next picture was The Cowboys, starring John Wayne.
John Wayne. Now John Wayne is an American iconic movie star, but I think, as best I know, you don't share political.
Quite the opposite. I said that to him. I said, "How in the hell are we going to work together? I hate everything that you stand for politically, and you despise my liberal points of view." And he said, "Well, we'll just talk about acting."
As you work together, you don't talk about politics?
No, we just talked about the play, and he surrendered. You know, he wanted to hire all his cronies to be on the crew.
Sure.
And I said no.
No.
And the studio called me and said, "What are you doing?"
John Wayne.
You can't. I said, "No, I don't want him to have his cronies here. And so let's make it difficult for him. Let me have all my people. Let him have to prove himself to my people. Let him have to be great," which, by the way, was a great move that I made just by accident. And he really appreciated it. He told me it was the greatest experience he ever had in his life.
So originally, on Golden Pond was offered to Sidney Pollack, and
he turned it down. He was busy. He was hot as a pistol.
He was hot as a pistol.
So they came to me, and I just thought it was great. I thought this could be sensational. What a wonderful story. And how about the opportunity to cast Henry Fonda and Katherine Hepburn and Jane Fonda and
Jane
Debbie
Fonda
Coleman.
is the biggest movie star in the world at this time. Jane Fonda. And Katherine Hepburn.
She kept telling stories about her career, her early career, and how she loved various stars. And I could see Henry, as during rehearsals, because I insisted on rehearsing the picture before we shot it. Henry was slowly
retreating,
kind of disappointed that she wasn't talking about him. She was talking about Spencer Tracy, with whom she was his lover for many years and did many pictures with him. So what
was the dynamic, as you recall, between Jane Fonda and Henry Fonda?
They weren't talking to each other.
Yes.
They hadn't
also political differences.
They hadn't talked to each other in years, and here I had them as the cast in my picture. And the picture was about a woman trying desperately to reconnect with her father. So it worked perfectly because he didn't talk to her he hadn't talked to her in a year before we started rehearsals. Mm-hmm. And so that the picture was fed by life experience.
Yeah, it was almost
how she reached for him and she tried desperately to connect with him, and he remained aloof until finally he surrendered. It was very powerful.
And that movie becomes not only a great commercial success, but one of the most dominant movies of its time.
It had 10 Academy Award nominations, including one for me.
You get nominated for an Academy Award in directing one of the most dominant films of its time.
Historically,
it's
nice of you to say that.
Well, it's true. Whether it's nice or not is irrelevant. It's true. It is historically regarded as a seminal work.
It is indeed, and it's.
Would you be willing to describe it as the film that you would like
to be remembered
for? Yeah.
You know, it's like, you know, people say to you, what's the favorite film you made?
Yes.
And I say, are you crazy? Every single one of them grabbed me completely. I was completely involved, deeply. It mattered very much to me. That's the only way to do something like that. If you try to do something that you don't care about, you're wasting your time. It's never going to work. So I've been very lucky in that way. I only made pictures that I loved.
You also were fortunate in being able to only make. So then we have that success. You're nominated for an Academy Award. What does that do to your life, being nominated for an Academy Award?
It screws you up.
Screws you.
Yes, it's
so it would sound to everyone watching this as the most fortunate moment in a life, and you say maybe it's fortunate, but it screws you up.
It's terrible.
How?
It's a terrible feeling.
How does it screw you up?
Because all of a sudden you become invested in winning, and Warren Beatty was nominated for directing a picture, and there were a number of other directors nominated. In those days, there were 5 nominations. And of course, your whole life becomes about going to the Academy Awards and the limousine that comes to pick you up, and everybody's talking to you.
And it takes you off of the artistic mission.
If you let it.